So we're here to talk a bit about business models and why they're foundational to the work we do at TDI. Business models give us the real context, but also they're the design mechanism by which we can work with enterprises to come up with really fabulous ways of making the world a better place. Isaac, tell us what is a business model?
Essentially, a business model is the rationale behind how your company makes money. So it's you serve a customer, you do some activities behind the scenes, they pay you an amount, you've spent an amount on costs, and it's understanding how that leads you to have a surplus or a profit at the end of it.
Could you give us some examples of the kinds of business models you've worked with, or you explain?
Sure. Think of any successful company that you've heard of, or any company that's sort of emerged out of nowhere in the last 10 years. Generally speaking, they will have been successful based on a very clever business model. So I use examples like iTunes. iTunes essentially changed the way we buy music. We don't go to stores and buy physical CDs, now we can buy songs online. Or things like how we don't go to video stores, we use streaming services, or how we don't buy coffee in huge bags of beans, we buy little pods that we put in Nespresso machines. Those are all sort of examples of where a business model has changed how a consumer buys a product.
So Isaac, how's a business model different to strategy?
A business model involves your strategy, but it's a much clearer articulation as to how all the parts of your business work together for success. So it's around the customer side of things, so what you sell, why people buy from you. It then leads into what has to happen behind the scenes and who you're going to partner with, what resources you need, and then it talks about your financials. So it's not a complex balance sheet or a P&L or anything like that. It's just the bare basics of this is how we earn money and this is how we spend our money.
So why do we need one? This business model thing, why is it so important to us?
Think of it this way, how could you operate without one? Every business plan out there has a business model at the heart of it. The problem is it can get weighed down by unnecessary detail. When we talk about a business model, we talk about something that can fit on one page. So something that's really clear and concise and that you can talk about amongst your team and you can put to an investor and you can talk about with your partners. And ultimately, you need to have that clarity about how all the parts of your business work together.
So I spent a lot of time in the tech entrepreneurial space and business plans were a really big part of that. And basically you'd almost decide on the investment for a tech company by the thickness of the business plan. You whack it down, and if it's got kind of 100 pages and really amazing content in there, then the business plan was the thing that really drove the business. But the interesting thing that I always found with business plans was you would spend a huge amount of time writing them, and honestly, the moment you got investment, you put it in the bottom drawer and it was never seen again.
Yes.
Tell me how business models are different and why business plans were so ineffective.
It comes down to the fact that a business model is a live document. It's something that you want to always have at the back of your mind, and it's something that changes over time. Like you're saying with a business plan, it's a laborious task creating it, and then when you're done or you've raised investment, you never look at it again. And the reason that that's not good enough is that once you've actually sold to your customers for 6 months, your understanding of why they buy from you changes. Or in the process of just running your day-to-day business, the suppliers you use, the processes you use, the pricing model you use, they'll all change. And if you don't update that business plan quite regularly, it actually loses its value and it becomes a kind of an antique document. A business model is something that you should be able to sort of rewrite from scratch. It takes maybe 10 minutes. If you do that every few weeks or months, it kind of gives you a really current, clear picture of how your business is working.
So business plans seem to freeze, if you like, a moment in time into quite a complex document.
Yes.
Whereas what you're talking about is business model that is quite flexible and adaptable and learns as you do iterations and you test the market.
Exactly right.
I'm interested in, and Isaac, I know you really push people to, even in that ideation stage around the business model, you push people to really think about multiple ways of achieving their business. Just talk to me about how you can use something like the Business Model Canvas, which is the tool you use, to create a business model. Why do you look at multiple ways of doing it? Why not just find the best way?
Firstly, there aren't many businesses who have had enormous success based on the first version of their idea.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to fall in love with the first thing that we create without actually going, is there a better way I could have done this? Is there another way this could be structured? The second reason is that a lot of the most successful companies that we shop with today, this is their fifth or sixth version of their business. Yeah. They've managed to change with the times, or more importantly, they've actually managed to change before there's been a need to. So for that reason, we encourage entrepreneurs to have a go at saying, okay, I have an idea of what problem I want this business to solve. What different ways can I do it? And if the answer is, I've got my favorite way, I'll explore a few other avenues. If they don't work, not a problem. It's cost you 3 pieces of paper. The biggest risk is, what if your future successful business model is one of those other options? We want you to take the time to understand why those alternatives could or could not work, and that gives you a lot more confidence that the way you go forward is the right way.
So Isaac, you use the business model canvas as a tool to help people evaluate, design, innovate around their business model.
Yes.
Tell me about why you use that tool.
The business model canvas we use, it's the one created by Alexander Osterwalder and the Strategyzer team. I like it for a few reasons. The first one is it's one A4 side, so it's easy to fill in. The second one is it's free. Anyone can download just the file and start filling it in, and it's really quite straightforward in how to use it. I like it because it has pretty much all the core elements of your business that you're going to need to get right, and it prompts you to be able to explain with some brevity how they all fit together. So you have to be able to answer in dot points or use post-its and be as concise as possible about, okay, this is my customer, this is why they buy from me, this is how I serve them, all those sort of questions.
Having sat in a lot of your workshops, I've seen that getting people to that brevity is actually quite a difficult task. I often refer to the canvas as being a deceptively simple tool. Because to actually get to that simplicity can be quite a challenge. Tell me what kind of process you have to go through with people to get them to get simple.
That's a very good question. So I'm a little bit cruel with it, to be honest. I sort of let people have one free hit. So that the first time they do it, they're gonna go overboard and they're gonna use far too many words and far too many sentences to describe who their customer is and why they buy. So I bring a shredder with me. And the idea is that people can take a photo of the first model they've made and then they have to destroy it, they have to get rid of it. The more iterations they do, the better they are at explaining quite quickly and quite simply who their customer is, where they generate revenue, and how it leads to them having a surplus at the end of it.
I know that it's actually one of the really exciting parts of watching that process play out is when people get to wrestle with different ways of thinking about their business. But tell me, why are you so uptight then about business models?
Think of it this way. How can an enterprise afford to function without having clarity about their business model? There's really no argument for why you should be operating in the dark, especially if you have a team around the entrepreneur. So for us, we go, in order to be able to pitch for investment, in order to be able to grow your business, in order to be able to work out how can I best serve my customer, you really should have an instinctive knowledge of how your model works. Therefore, from my perspective, being able to document that in a clear and concise way is really, really important. And so it's something that I'm quite insistent on. A good entrepreneur should be able to define what it is that they do and how they make money.
So at TDI, one of our big lenses that we look at the world through, is blended value. So blended value is the core way we think about design for businesses and for the way that we think we can change the world. Isaac, just tell me a little bit about how blended value meets the business model canvas.
Ordinarily, blended value doesn't have a logical home on the canvas itself. The canvas is to force you to think in a commercial mindset about how your operation works. What I like about that is that it doesn't allow you to say, because we're social, we don't need a commercially viable value proposition. We don't need to make enough money. And I think it should force you to think about how this can be a strong enough business on its own. We then add an extra box to the top of it, and we call it intent. And that's a place to list why the social component is important to you and how you want that to reflect over the rest of your boxes. So it might be in your staffing. How does that help your mission? It might be in the choices you make of supplier. It might be how you serve the customer. It might be where your revenues end up or what they go towards. Those things are all really present in the way we do a business model canvas, but it doesn't allow you to subsidise. It doesn't let a social mission subsidise the commercially viable part of the model.
Isaac, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So business models are core to what we do at TDI. It's the way that we invent, design, and how we plan for making the world a better place. Join us one day for a workshop and you too can do some business modelling.